Yeah, let me know if you can see.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, so I think today I'll try to cover, what are the most essential ones as such, which will be useful for you going ahead. So we have seen yesterday till here, right? So creating a layout, then adding CSS, using CSS, how we can improve the overall look and feel. So right
Mm.
now, I just one tile, however we did. Later on, for similar steps, I have repeated for others. Then we got this kind of application where each tile is a simple form, and we have used one model for it. So it can be OData model or a JSON model. It's just a container. So we are connecting to CRM system and using an OData service. We are fetching the data and we are just storing in a JSON model and we are binding it. So this way we are trying to solve, instead of logging to 6 systems straight away, they can just launch this application and they can access instantly these values. Further, what we can do is, so each of them, what are fragments, etc. are there. So those also we can integrate as each of the line items, etc. And we can do. So I'm not going to touch upon it. So we can just integrate additional functionalities as well. So today, what we'll do is, we'll first of all try to deploy into the cloud. So we have designed one scenario. So, but how do we deploy it and how do we access? So idea is we should be able to deploy, and we should have our dedicated customized launchpad, and we should be able to run this application as such. So we'll see the steps. So what we are going to do is, so we have everything our application locally, right? So we have, first we'll do is we'll push it from to the GitHub. From locally we cannot integrate. So I'm just opening Business Application Studio, and here using clone option. So now this is my GitHub URL. Have published this. So I'll copy this GitHub URL, and then here we'll go to find command option. We'll use git clone. So when we select git clone, so we'll be able to clone the resource file. So we can do complete activity in the BS as well, just to ensure that in order to deploy and to run from um, launchpad shell, etc. Technically we have to use BS itself. From local edition we cannot actually connect. Okay,
Mm.
it's just taking a while to load. So what we are doing is, whatever we published, even existing thing, so that URL it will ask us when we select clone git option. So we'll give that URL and you will connect it. Then we should be able to pull the repository, right? So this is by pulling the repository, you should actually get one. What are the copy you have in the git, you should be able to get it. So in this case, if it asks me for the repository location, you can just select under projects itself path, then it will be loading you. So once you clone the repository, you should get a project here. You can just either reload this, if or you can just refresh it, so that you should be able to see all your files. Now for the deployment, most important thing is mta.yml file. So mta.yml file is deployment file. So when I say deployment file, so how we are using manifest for the runtime to instructions, mta.yml file is meant for deployment. For it will have all the deployment necessary, where is the location, etc. All those details will be available on MTA file. So we are going to use MTA file to make sure that all the things are running fine. Now here you have to select the project. So in this case, what are the project we have? Select the project and click open in terminal. Okay. So there are like two ways of deployment. One using UFA tooling. So there is a UFA tooling commands are there. So using completely command prompt lines, or using wizard. So this is a wizard approach where you can use either of these approaches. There are like a certain ways as well. So when we open it here, we'll be able to see complete structure, everything here. Okay. When you okay, right. BS is generally a bit slow here. Ideation BS generally takes a while for things to load. That's the reason I generally prefer a local ID. Then afterwards, everything I publish to GitHub, and then for any other activity, I generally use this for the demonstration. Hmm, okay. So idea is if you're having multiple projects, so we should make sure that we are not selecting wrong project, etc. So when you click it, ideally we should get this structure. So whenever this structure shows web app and this particular project structure, then we are good to go. So here we can use UFA build tool, UFA build command as well, or we can use it's too slow. So we have tooling commands. So tooling commands are meant for our deployment. So whatever we try to do, everything complete everything commands etc. We'll find. So there are like lots of other useful commands out there. And technically everything, if you want to deploy everything, we can go to this tooling page. So where it will tell us how do we deploy etc. All the commands etc. So this is the command we use. So UFA build. So it's like it will do 8 tasks. So what are these 8 tasks, sir? All the one of the most important is this last. So uglification. What are uglification is we get component preload. We used to do manual activity, lots of manual activities, but UFA tooling reduced lots of things. So build is why do we do build is it's like consistency check. Previously we used to use and build and maven build. Okay, these builds what they do is so what are the dependency files? When I say dependency files, we might have loaded some CSS external files, JavaScript files, some UFI libraries as well. So for running the application, whether all the declared files are available or consistently available or not, everything it will check. Not only that, it will do these 8 checks. So any ASCII characters are there or replacing the copyright, replacing the version. So suppose we want to deploy for specific version. So those versions, etc. Also, whatever in the manifest it's mentioned, everything it will try to check. It will create a component preload. Component preload file is all the spaces, white spaces it will remove, and it will complete the MVC architecture, whatever structure we have placed, everything it will be synced into one single file. Okay. So yeah, our application when we are running, it will run only component preload file. It will not run individual files. So if it loads that file, it is sufficient for it to do all the tasks. So this tooling is so powerful that using just UFI build, it will do all these 8 tasks for us. So uglification is one more approach where all your code will be, translated into different way. So when anybody try to check your source code, they'll not be able to read. Now, if you generally see our application, if you are right clicking on the Chrome inspector tool, we are able to see the source code, right?
Mm.
So generally, intellectual property rights, like if we, any nobody has to copy your key functionality of anything, then you have to uglify it. Uglify is nothing but decoding it. So this text, if C, I'll replace it with B, etc. Automatically, there will be a function which will it will not appear as a. It will when you see it, it will appear as a junk file. It will be encoded into a different way. Whenever you decode it again, automatically again it will extract and it will show as a source code. So technically speaking, the source code nobody will be able to read it from the deployed application. So that is the objective. So that we call it as uglification. We used to use lots of tools, actually grunt, etc., and then we used to do uglification just for the sake of. But all these tasks, they beautifully they have minimized it. So if we use build command, it will directly simplify all our tasks. Moreover, it will create everything optimized file also. The file which we deploy will be very lightweight. Here, if you see, it will be very bulky. Generally, even this is not so bulky, it will be in few MBs, but deployed file will be in KBs. So build will reduce the whole file size as well. So all I have to do is I have to run build command. So this will automatically do it. So here it failed to identify root. Uh, So, so you have a build using this we can do. Here it is not able to recognize the command. And the same commands using UFA build if we can do it, and using wizard as well. So I'll show you both approaches how we do UFA build. Okay, it's each keystroke is taking a lot of time to recognize. Whenever import, if we are facing any, it's not able to recognize, etc., we have to again reload the BAS. So it's not able to identify that this is a root. Though it is showing as web app, it is not able to identify the web app folder structure. So it's
Can we do that from Visual Studio as well?
we can do it, but we cannot actually deploy into the cloud because there is one more step now. I'll be doing it. So that would require step. We can do in here as well, but we cannot connect to the Cloud Foundry from the Visual Studio Code.
Mm.
Okay. Okay, let this be. So all you have to do is we have to run this UFA build command. Then that should create us the required files. Other option is YTML file. We can right click it and you can click on build MTA project. So this will also do series of build related activities. So both are the same. This is using command prompt and that using. I think I have to reload it. It is not able to identify any commands. Okay, at the moment, BS a little bit not very, I mean, super fast as such. Maybe it could be because of the trial edition as well, but it definitely has lots of useful features and etc. Lots of updates are there, but it takes a bit of time for it to respond. Yes. So each time what it automatically updates. So because of that also we can turn off this auto updation from settings as well, so that every time it doesn't update. So what happens is whenever we load, it tries to check for the latest Node.js version, what are the plugins we had it, everything it will try to see. When that's the reason also it will take a bit of time, initial load time, etc. Yeah, I think it is executing the task. Yeah, here now it is building the process. We could see a make file, so .mda. So when we start triggering it, if once it started building the process, we should see something like a file will be generated. We'll get a new folder structure. So here actually the tasks are running here. So it will show detailed log here. Once build is successfully run, we should get empty archives folder structure. So within this archive structure, so we'll get one zip file. So zip file is completely optimized source code of this one, which can be readily used for deployment. This is a mandatory step. So without actually doing a build step, we cannot deploy the file. So previous versions we can deploy any of the version, but building empty build is mandatory.
And so is this like a transport package or anything?
Yes,
Um, we-
yes. This is like we are final file, whatever, all we get is a zip file which we can assign it to a transport and we can actually publish to the whichever landscape we want.
okay.
So in the wizard, it will if we when we select on-premise as such, it will prompt for the transport everything. Okay. So when we are selecting see deployment environment, while we created a wizard, it was prompting us for either Cloud Foundry or on-premise, right? So if you select on-premise, it will ask for a transport request. But for the cloud, we do not have any transport. There is no concept of transport at all. Okay. All we need is we need Cloud Foundry endpoint and the dev space. So I'll just show that step as well. Now here our build file got generated. If you see here, we have something called bs.mtar. So if an empty archives, if you got this file, that means your build is successful and you got a file. Okay. Now the second step is this one. In order to deploy, you have to run one more command. So go to find command. Here you have to say cf login. So cf login is nothing but login to the Cloud Foundry. So now we have to log into our Cloud Foundry account. So this is my Cloud Foundry account where we have used created one dev space previously. As I created one dev space in my Cloud Foundry account. So we are going to connect to that endpoint. So I'll just copy that endpoint from there and I have to paste it here. Okay. So this is endpoint where it refers to the Cloud Foundry account. Now we have to log into the same credentials using this command palette. We have to try to log into that instance. So it will ask me for the email. Yes, it's too slow, but it will do. So once we enter credentials, it should, if it is successfully connected, it will show us all the dev spaces which we created. So now it should show us a list of dev spaces like dev quality landscape, whichever landscape we have selected, all those dev spaces should appear here. So without transport, all we do is we select the dev space and it will be deployed directly onto that. So we do not have any individual transport as such. So the versions will be maintained in the cloud platform altogether. So you can see there multiple versions there. You can always activate which are the version you want. Unless we deploy the next version, old version will be up and running. So we need not to have any downtime also. There will be literally zero downtime. So one application will be running. By the time we deploy the second application, we can go to the cloud cockpit and we can activate the second instance. So that's how we're going to do now. So here we have, this is our endpoint. So I selected this endpoint and we created some here we have created some dev spaces. So in the development, currently I have 6 instances. So I'm going to deploy our application here in this particular, any of these instances. So for that, we are trying to connect to using CF login. When we say CF login, so it says as you have been logged in. Okay. So you click on this and you can say, then you will get option called deploy mtrk. Unless you connect to CF, we will not get options to deploy these files. Okay. So right click this file and click on deploy file, deploy. It's trying to fetch the dev spaces. So I think so it's activating the deploy tool. Yeah, now it's prompted me for account. Now here we got all the instances. So what I'll do is I'll just select one landscape development. Then once it is there, then this series of activities has to start. So if you see the deployment, it's uploading the file and it is doing all the activity. So this is our instance, and in the development instance, it's trying to deploy the file. So once this it is successfully deployed, then we should able to see back there in our cloud cockpit this particular instance available here. So you should refresh it and it should add one more application in this instance directly. Right, I think this is done. So once it ends with this, it is has been deployed. So we can go back to our instance. It will generally usually take a while for changes to reflect there. So I'll just try to refresh it. I'll just come back to here by the moment it takes time. So now we can go to, so it will be deployed in a while. So we can go to now service marketplace, and in order to deploy this onto our launchpad, we have something called launchpad service. So I'm going to use launchpad service now. So from the service marketplace, you can search for a service called launchpad service. So this
I tried
launchpad,
to do this. Sorry. Uh, I try to do this in my current trial account, and no matter how many time I try to launch this, it says failed
uh,
to subscribe. I try to subscribe to it.
yeah,
Um,
there is one activity we have to do. So we have to do create instance. So create instances, once you do, then you get the option of go to application. So if you haven't got go to application, that means you haven't created an instance. So previously it used to be very straightforward, but now they have added security layer where for everything we have to assign some authorizations. So you have to go to here, then they have simplified now. So you have to create an instance, then it will show a standard or etc. So you can just choose standard here, and launchpad service. I think I have already created one instance, so it's not allowing me to create one more instance.
mm, mm. I tried all that, but when you create it, right, when you get the create button, at
Mhm.
that time, when we go back into the subscription to see the status, instead of saying successful, it says failed.
Yeah,
So I think it may be some changes that they are doing now
correct.
to.
Because there are like this was previously called as portal service. Now they introduced initially when this change was introduced, this was introduced in Feb in between. Okay,
Mm,
the problem what happens initially we used to have only portal service. Now they created launchpad service. So this was they meant for dedicated websites etc. And they bifurcated into two services. So the free apps etc. in that way. So you can try this. So if that is not working to you, you can try to create an instance here. So even this should allow you to do. So both are the similar services. So I can select a standard instance. So this will ask us select a space. I'll select development space. I can give a name. My portal already exists. My portal 2. So you should be able to create an instance. So if Launchpad service is not working, you can try portal service. So one more way is, if you can see if you are having see, it should show you a success. If it is showed as success, then only you'll be able to launch the service. So if this
Right.
itself is failing, then you cannot actually create
Yeah.
the application
Because it
instance.
says in progress and then it ends up in failure. That's
Okay.
how it is.
Maybe you might have tried very early, so there are
Yeah.
lots of bug fixes also they were trying to do. This is different layer they introduced, because previously directly go to application was used to be there. Now what they
Mm.
have done is they have created one more layer called security layer. So whenever we are creating it, it is actually creating some entries in the roles. So if you go to roles, role collections, you should see some portal roles being created there. Okay. If those are not created properly also, that create step will fail. So create step, if failing, could be many reasons. So we can go to a role section, and then we can delete, and again we can try it out, creating the fresh as well. So that is also one more option. So if you see here, you should have your role for which are the instance you. So now portal admin. So you should have here your instance for portal. If your launchpad you're using, these two you should have launchpad admin or launchpad. If you are facing an issue, you select it, and you can delete your existing role or anything, and you can recreate it. Okay. Ideally here you should go. You should be able to have these roles assigned to it. Okay. So the create step, what it does is it creates roles for us, and it assigns different authorizations. So here you can add your email ID, which are email ID you're using. So in this case, if you see, my ID has been assigned here. So we can add for the different roles. These are the roles. So we can just add the user in this. If user is added and it is available, that means you can access the Launchpad instance. Clear.
Mm.
Just check if create step
So
is
quick
failing.
question.
Try portal phase. Yes, yes.
So, like in the back end, right? Can we also give these roles from the back end, like from the SAP side, the GUI side?
UI also we have that for the transactional PFCG. So using PFCG we have to give. Generally, here the difference is in cloud, they are giving privileges to individual users as well. Okay.
Mm.
So whereas in on-premise general tendencies, those PFCG access are not given to developers. Only the basis people they give the access. So general fact is, whenever we need a role, we have to touch base with the authorization team or basis team. So depend on your landscape. So only those will be authorized. So same activities we do there, but there what we try to do is we create in terms of transport everything. Even the role also we have to transport it, and we have to move.
Mm.
We're getting it right. So role is nothing but we create a name stating that he's an admin. Then what all privileges he should have. So we'll assign the apps, etc. A bunch of activities around to that user. Right? Clear?
Mm. Mm.
So general PFCG transaction is very straightforward as well. If I'll just show if we get time. So general, you can try directly in, if ES5 GUI we have, right, you can try in PFCG transaction. It's very
Or maybe
straightforward.
I may have confused the both, like like how we can access the Fiori admin portal, right? That link from the SICF, we know that the link is this, and then go in there and try to do some add a tile into it, right? Without
Uh,
actually going through the launchpad. So I've been trying to get that access for like 1 month right now, and then I'm not getting it. They just have a lot of hesitation, so I cannot even go in and add a tile.
okay.
You're talking about the consultants, people who are in the
Correct.
United
Correct.
States,
Hmm.
and they say they have expertise of about 30 years, can't even do one tiny stuff,
No,
and then I look back at our people in India, and when I feel like, oh my God, there are a lot of resources who deserve to be doing this job, getting this type of pay here, versus the ones that we are stuck with right now. So it's
uh,
kind of like a mafia,
that is there
been
everywhere.
trying to figure out Cloud Foundry for like 2 or 3 months now. Think about it, right?
Okay.
2 or 3 months. So
It
anyway,
it's pretty much actually they are trying to simplify lots of things. So the on-premise, there are lots of chances. The problem is just for doing one activity, they create one complete user. Okay, and see, they're pretty much all the things can be done by one individual in the name of course, the security is very much important, but at the same time, the person who is building the application or who is I mean, if you're owning the application, definitely you should know how to make it secure as well, right? So
We're
it's
talking
not.
about ownership, right? Before even the apps have been created, what bloody ownership are you talking about, right? So, so
Correct.
this is how it is like yeah. So,
Don't worry. So things are improving. That's the reason. See, I have recently I have seen how things are moving on. Down the line now, within a couple of years, very soon, you'll see very smooth access. So we had very legacy approaches in on-premise as well. There is lots of data duplication also. If you see in S4 HANA, one nice problem what they solved is there are like not only this one, like there are lots of legacy issues are there. What are you talking about are legacy issues. See, to do your job, you should ideally when the moment you you start building your application or anything, you should have all the developer accesses, no matter what it may be. Okay, so that is at
exactly.
organization level they have to
Yeah.
take control. That is missing somewhere. Okay,
Yes.
that
Yes.
is known fact. So they in unnecessarily they'll see for your timeline says that within week you can build an application and you can deliver it,
Yeah.
ideally application. But to get just because you don't have an access, it gets the postponed for by 2 weeks. So that
Yeah.
is a strange thing. So uh, okay, we'll come back to our session. So here what I'm trying to say is, so here you can delete these roles if at all you are stuck, and you can pretty much recreate the instance. So if you're stuck with launchpad service, you can try portal service. So that is also, both do the same job. So but
Yeah. I'll
idea is
find
you
out.
should be able to
Yeah.
create. So if instance says a success, then only you can click on go to application and that will allow you to launch. Okay. Meanwhile, many things are changing. Previously, it used to be under instance and subscriptions. Now they move to service marketplace. Some internal changes are also happening. Maybe it could be because of that. If you delete and create fresh instance also, then also that should ideally solve our issue. So there are like many things are there here. So if you see here, many translation service also we have something called translation hub. So and many other services are there. So even document uploading, etc., document handling, we have Jam is one which SAP uses. So even those also we can use document service. So DMS is for the on-premise, whereas Jam, I mean document service is for cloud. So we have lots of services here. All are like just we have to just enable them and we can have to start consuming it. So there are like some good features out there, but we have to just make sure we are high. Now, if you go to portal or launchpad service, you should ideally be able to click on go to application. So this will take you to the instance of managing your launchpad. So whatever I have discussed in week two or so was on-premise completely. This is completely cloud. Okay, on-premise steps are we have to use LPD cust for create a launchpad instance. Here we have to use portal or launchpad service. So this is our here I create. You can click on create site, then it should create you one instance like this. So I'll just click quickly create one create site. So I'll say this Fiori what we have DevOps. So I say DevOps and I'll create one site, and within this service we have team designer as well. So we can just activate as individual service or we can use it from this service as well. So both ways we can do it. Now site is created. So it's loading. Yes, it got to. So this option on top, if you see, this will publish your changes. So whenever you have created the basic structure, we have talked about in on-premise, how do we create catalogs, groups, etc. Right? So those all things can be automated from the cloud as well. So here, what I do is now I click on edit here. So we created one instance. So there is a new concept called pages and spaces in Fiori 3. So the design, if we wanted instead of groups, etc., instead of page, we want to give, we can change this to pages and spaces, else we can stick with groups. And here lots of flexibility you have, where you want to shell or you do not want to toggle off, etc. So many other, these are like just you can select some options as you prefer. So some customizations to your launchpad, what things to appear in your launchpad. Now what I mean by is, I think this code session got expired. Fine. So this is a URL to launch. You can bookmark this for all your deployed apps, or you can click on this share icon to create your instance. Now I'll assign my role. First of all, I'll come here, I'll click on admin, I'll come back. Okay, let me save this. You come back to back option. Okay, so now this should create you one simple site called DevOps. Okay, now click on edit further and we can create, or we can export this whole instance, everything we can play around with. But one more step we have to do here. Think, yeah, it's loading. Service is bit slow. Yeah, it got loaded. Okay, now this is where we manage the content. So first, to create instance in the settings, we just select all the options however we want, say individual items. So once you made your changes, you can just save it. And even if you role, if you do not have any role, if it's blank also, it's fine. Just save these settings. Then you come to pages section. Then you should be able to, get the content manager. So this is a where we'll try to fetch our instance of deployed application. We have deployed in our dev space, right? So here in content, we have to able to manage those. So first I'll go and create one catalog here. So I'll create one, click on catalog. So you come back second if you haven't seen. Okay. So here we have, by default, I have created some of the catalog groups, everything I have managed. Here you can click on new. If you want to create a new catalog, new role, new group, or new app, you can have to select respect to options. We have to do each and every step. First, I'll do app. So here we'll give ourselves a DevOps dashboard. So DevOps dashboard, and then we click on see, now here you can select if you are on-premise system or now, or system instance, everything we have, right? So we can select the instance, or if you do not want to connect directly using URL, you want to connect also straight away, you can say no system and you can directly give the URL as well. So if you're running from any system, whatever system you're using, all we need is an URL. So if you have a URL, any type of URL, you can integrate into Launchpad. So we'll select ES5, then we can select SAP UI5. Technically speaking, we have to share the deployed component name. So component name is nothing but UX or namespace followed by our project name. So that would be our component. Okay. Here we need to add our LPD custom object, what we call semantic objects, everything. Then only we'll be able to officially recognize using this method. But this is what, if you're on premise, we are doing any activity. If you deployed using on premise, from there, all you have to pick is you have to pick up this particular component ID, etc., registered in your LPD case. Simplest form also, any T code if you want to integrate also, you can use all your T code. So all web input screens, any screens we can integrate as a launchpad. So I'll select URL option now, and what I'll do is where instance got okay. So in this case, this I have to deploy one, I have to run it. For illustration, what I'll do is, so if you have, there is one more layer. But to make it simple, what I'll do is, once you deployed, we have a deployed URL. You can give the deployed URL. For now, I'll just give this. And here we have to specify all the semantic objects as well. For this UI to sem object is a semantic object tool. There we have to create our semantic object. Here I'll give from random name, where ideally this is doesn't exist in my backend system. Okay. And these are all optional steps. So how your tile should look, etc. Those are all optional steps. Here UX can give support, etc. You can select one nice icon for my tile. It'll say DevOps dashboard. So this is how our tile should look, and our app is ready. So we are saying the app source of the app. So app source is, this is the URL. So wherever we deployed, or if we have a component, etc., those details we are specifying. So app, where to find, if we have an SSCF node, we have to give the SSCF node. So idea is, this is just a tile container. So here we are managing app. We are saying which system the SAP our app is deployed, and those system we are trying to connect to it. So it could be cloud, it could be on-premise, no matter where it is. All you have to do is you have to manage from this particular three parameters. Select system on-premise, then select on-premise system if it is configured. In order to configure, we have to add it in destinations. You in the first class we have defined in the destinations, right? So in the destinations, if you added it, so here we added only ES5. That's why only ES5 is showing. If you added any on-premise, for that we have cloud connector. Using cloud connector, we can connect any on-premise system in the for the portal service. Then if you connected here, so here we added only ES5. So currently it is showing only ES5 system. But if you add any other destination here, so which are destination? It could be cloud, it could be on-premise. Destination should be added here. If you added a destination, then it will appear under this drop down. Clear? Okay. So current this landscape doesn't allow us to deploy. This is only for free edition ES5. It doesn't allow us to deploy. That's the reason I'm using URL option and I'm not using regular option. Now, if you come back here one more step. Now, similarly, I'll try to create one catalog. So catalog, you can give nice name, any name. Now we'll call it as HR. Maybe we'll call it as an HR app or an admin app. That's it. You need not to do anything. Just save it. If you remember catalogs, we talked about like this is a higher hierarchy. Then in that we can create within HR department we can create multiple groups. Maybe one managing RMG resource group, maybe one managing etc. So those classifications we can create here. Yeah. Resource group, some resource group, creating groups. Just create individual instances, then you are good. So we got this. Now I'll create one role as well. I'll say as HR role. HR role. We are creating our own role. We can give some unique ID as well. I'll just save this. So things are changed. So first step done. So we created one. So all the four steps are we created one app. Then we created one catalog group and then role. Now how do we assign it? So the step comes to of assignment. So for assignment, what I'll do is I'll select our app, whichever app we selected. Now we created our app here. Click on edit. Okay, this is role. Sorry. Click on edit. Now we get step is there. Save. It's taking a while. Okay. I think here we did not do any changes. I'll go to. We created HR role, right? I'll go to my role. Now here, when I click on edit, I have to assign this role with an app. So which all app we want. Now in this case, we created DevOps, right? So when you click on here, it will show you all the apps which we created. Now we created app called DevOps. Now in this role, which all apps we want to give access, we have to just select those access. So I'm trying to assign two different one managed but some other application is available. I'm assigning to this particular role. So for HR role, whenever we assign it, so these two apps they'll be able to access, right? All I did is edit. Then I just clicked on refresh here. When we clicked on refresh, it showed us our instance. So we created this DevOps instance here. So I click on save. Likewise, we have to assign to our catalogs and groups as well. So we created some called HR catalog. Click on edit. Okay, or he can roll. I think there is a lag issue. Okay, now it's showing a catalog. Now click on edit. Now refresh this. This should show us DevOps. Yeah, it's a bit slow. So we can click on or created instance. So here we created one instance, right? So we are adding this to catalog. So if you remember this, what we are trying to do is it's very pretty straightforward. Maybe we are doing a repetitive task, but for all apps in the launchpad, for the launchpad, for a tile to appear, things to need is we need one role, we need one catalog, okay, we need one group. So we what we did is plainly we created one role called HR role. We created one catalog called HR catalog. We created a group called resource group. This is what we have done on using the tool resource group, right? Now what I'm doing is now we created first an app. We need an app as well. So where is the location of our app? We have specified our credentials. What I was mentioning is you can use a URL of your application, or you can use a SAP UFI component, or you can use your destination where you have your application SSCF path or anything. So we no matter where in the app you specify where your application is hosted, then your application is ready. Next comes the role. You can create your own role, or you can create an admin role, or you can create whatever the name of the role you want to give. You can create a role, and you have to assign this particular app to that role. Okay, you click on edit and add app, and here also in the catalog, here also what we're doing is click on edit, add app. Here also resource group, click on edit app. So why do we do this? So when you have lots of apps, then it makes sense to group all the HR related apps into catalog, and you can we're using roles, you can manage who should access your group. Now within the HR department, if you have multiple users who may not be required this particular DevOps access, you can create one more role, and you can assign only this particular catalog and group. Now for a basic example, what I have done is I created all the 4 instances, and I have created. As the landscape evolves, we might have lots of groups and lots of catalogs, right? So this is the activity we have done now so far. Okay. Uh, so once you have created and assigned to catalog, same step we do it for group as well. It will take once to get used to this portal. Once you get used to it, then you can play around with all the features. They're like minor features, etc. Lots of other features, but basic things are this. And you can go to your group similarly. So resource group. So click on edit and search for your DevOps. Refresh this. So it will prompt your app. Select the app, save it. You're done. So now we have done all the 4 steps. Now we have one more step to do. Now this part one says that you have to go to Content Explorer. So here it will show you all your HTML apps. So our UFI is also HTML5 app, and if it is available or not, we have to check. Okay. So here I'll go to, there is one instance here. I'll go to my provider manager. Let me check if it hasn't appeared yet. Yeah, it came. So now in the content manager, we created all these instances, so tiles, etc. Now you can come to provider manager. So in provider manager, it should populate as all the HTML5 apps. So here, if anything newly deployed, so last deployed was April 29. So today we deployed, so those changes are not yet available. First of all, I have to click on refresh. Once I click on refresh, all the dev spaces in the dev repository now, so far whatever we deployed, I think now by now it should have already appeared. So that's the reason I have done this activity first. So now when I uh, refresh it, ideally it should show the new content. Now it has fetched the fresh, newly deployed, any changes are there, everything will be appearing it. So you have to click on refresh to make sure that your recent changes, everything are available for usage. Now once you have do this step, you are good. So nothing else we need to do. You can come back to your site directory. So your application, etc., everything should be there, and you can click on go to site. This should take us to our portal site, and then it should launch our application. So you see we got our resource group. We created previously I created one RMG group. So in resource group we got our tile created. Now we can launch this. So if it is local instance, it may not be able to read the file, but if we are able to create, I have given the local path. So if you give the right path, then that will be able to what do we call, so exactly launch the application. So here the path, the destination which I have given is not qualified path. So once if we give that URL exactly for the app and everything, then it will. So but the steps we do are, this is how we'll manage in the cloud groups and catalogs, and we deploy. Okay. So here any other application. So I have taken another URL like manage products from the ufi.sap.com. We have some demo apps. So here we have dedicated qualified URL paths, etc. So any of these applications URLs, you can copy it and you can give as an URL to test if the site everything is working uh, as per the requirement. So I just try to use that application URL as one more tile as well. So here the important step to understand is, so this is how we'll manage using Launchpad service or portal service to create the tile. But how did I customize the theme, etc.? So for that we have here theme manager. If you see here, you have theme manager. You can click on theme manager, and if you see by default we have quartz dark theme, etc. themes. So here if you below, if you see, we have something called launch theme designer. From theme manager you can click on this, then this should take you to theme designer tool. So from this tool we can just how we have modified the CSS locally. So you can select existing theme. So in this case I have, you have to create, you can click on create new theme, and you have to select base theme. So you want to tweak Billy's theme or you want to tweak Quad's theme, you can tweak the theme. So in this case I tweaked around or latest Quad's theme itself, and this is how I created the theme initially I have shown, right? So it's asked me to upgrade. So one more important fact is, any theme if you are doing it, you have to, when a new release you have to test your theme, because many things can go wrong. So always you have to keep updating your theme. If you have designed any custom theme, make sure that when a new release or your server got upgraded, you have to make sure that you go back and you test your theme, because sometimes the CSS classes or anything can be changed or modified, because new theme now from Belize Quartz, when new theme was introduced, many things got changed, so you have to recreate your theme. So
Hmm.
that is one important factor you have to consider. If customers are trying to use quad sim, your changes may not be visible, because um, you have built that theme upon Belize, so then it won't work. So in this case it's asking us to 8.7 to 8.9 you have to upgrade, because there is a new update. So unless I upgrade, it doesn't allow me to access it, so I asked it to update it. This is pretty straightforward to use, and I think I just talked in previous during deployment that client customization we use theme designer. It is very pretty much um, there is no coding involved anything. All you have to do is choose the right colors. Like I said, if you know that your customer colors, one way is your customers, every customer will have their brand guidelines, etc. They have a list of guidelines, so you can pick those color guidelines from them. Or if you want to use like yesterday we discussed, completely custom, you can go to their official website, take an image, you can using the color picker from paint, etc. You can create your own palette. So here four tabs we have. One is quick fix, expert mode, and then custom CSS as well. So this is how I created the theme. So initially at the start of the session I have shown it. So all I did was for the Collins aerospace in the website, I have picked these two colors. So for our application we have used Collins aerospace, right? So the website I had these two colors, so I just picked these two colors as my color palette, and I try to tweak around with the colors. So you go to palette, add your colors, which all shades. Now I choose red shade, black shade, so and white shade. So three colors I added, and now these hex code values from here I have picked it up. Now once I have these X values, I go to my quick fix. So the first tab is quick. So here what are your changes? Very instantly, all everywhere it will reflect to all the sub CSS classes. There are thousands of CSS classes, but all everywhere using quick panel, if you change the CSS color, it will change everywhere in the CSS properties of all the subsequent methods. So that's the easy advantage. You can
How did
select a
you
logo.
how did you get those styles like my task, my leave request?
Yeah, this is portal instance. I have created one more instance here. The one which I'm running. Here I have created multiple instances. It is picking to the this one HR portal. Now we created DevOps, right?
Mm,
So it is picking HR portal.
mm,
So I created multiple instances. So it is I have created URL. Okay, I'll show you that. Here you can add whichever target you want to test. So now I have used URL of HR portal. So if you use which are URL for that, we can see the changes. So if we want for this one, now where is our deployed URL? Okay, this is our URL. So this URL I can copy it.
mm,
Here I can give my URL. So where I want to see my changes. So this is my DevOps. I click on add. Now all the changes will be visible to this particular screen. So we can
mm.
visualize our theme changes for whichever the URL we want.
Okay,
So now for this, if I visualize it, now it will come for this one.
great.
So previously I have used one more instance. This is now whichever we created, for that we are visualizing it.
Mm,
Okay. We can visualize it for any URL. All you have to specify is here the target. Add a target, then you should be. So the same screen now here, if you apply the theme, how it looks, it appears in the themes in this way. Okay. Now here logo, just you add a logo here, select the image, drop the image, add a logo. Your SAP logo will be replaced with your own logo. Then the base color, brand colors, everywhere the brand color I want to go with orange. So I change these colors and I tweaked around the colors. So certain sections I haven't touched. I just changed brand color and base color. So everything got changed. And come to next tab where it will be detailed. So header bar, what color you have to get. So this is header colors section. Navigation section, what all colors. So this is the navigation section. So what are colors you want. Shell canvas, what do you want color. So there are like individual areas. So where you have, you can simple thumb rule is wherever you see blue, change with orange. Okay, here you see a blue tinge, right? So wherever you have it, so you can change with those, and you can reset to tile color also what you want, etc. So here we have lots of sections. All you need is just choose whatever color you prefer. So in these two tabs, then you're done. Okay,
mm,
you can retain most of the colors. You need not to select all the colors. Let standard colors, what are CSS. There are lots of CSS colors. You cannot play around with all the colors.
mm,
Just touch upon which area you want. Now if you want to change sheller header color, just change only that part. Okay. Okay, these two are fine. There is one important tip in this whole tool that is very most frequently I use, and one that is, you see here this little tiny tool. So
mm,
this you have to select. This magnify tool is very powerful tool. You click on instance, it will show you all the CSS classes behind it. Now I clicked on this background area or tile area. It will show me. Now if I want to make a changes in the shell header, I click on this. I click on the header. This is a
mm.
header color.
I was
So I
about to
just,
ask you that.
so first you have to play around with first two tabs. So you select what are the colors you want. If you see some more gray areas like, okay, this color doesn't look, or title color doesn't look, you can
Mm,
pick those individual elements. So, and you can use this particular tool to select, and then you can change those sections. Now in this case, style colors, anything, etc. So these are the relevant tools. Okay. So this will be really useful. Like custom CSS, anything are there, then you can write directly CSS classes as well. You can create your custom CSS, just like how we are
okay.
adding in the application. You can
Mm,
create your own class file here. So
mm,
give a class file name, write whatever you want, but I highly recommend do not use this, because you'll be messing up lots of other existing classes.
mm.
Okay, unless you know what you're doing it, do not use any external CSS. This tool alone is sufficient. They have given plenty of classes, CSS classes. If you identify the right section and if you play around a bit, then you should be able to do. Okay.
Can we do like increase the font size on this?
uh, Font size we cannot increase. So font size, CSS doesn't here, only color options there. Theme, only managing the theme they have given, because
Okay.
inherently for font size, etc., Problem is we can use built-in 100% zoom you get. So if you minimize zoom factor, it will decrease your font, etc. Size of the font. If you are talking, if you want to change the font style, you can change it.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay. Size we cannot tweak because standard CSS class will come with standard, so title some standard size, table standard size. So they have here home it has standard size. So its general thumb rule is we cannot change those parameters that SAP has defined. So you can if you have seen we have all everything in the tool section you have it. So we have this is a theme parameter toolbox. So here they have given what's the size, etc. Those are fixed. We cannot change any of those. So for this for particular theme, here they have defined chooses all 72. So here this fonts, etc. We can change which font to pick, etc. But by right now SAP font is SAP 72. So this is Fiori font.
It's an SAP UI font size down below. Says like 16 pixel.
Correct, correct. So these are standard fonts. So if at all anywhere you want to use directly 16px instead of hard coding it, you can use this CSS class.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
Got it.
So it's like always it will adapt uniformly across everywhere. So you
Mm.
have to always stick to standard CSS class. So these are a different sizes. Also these are all sizes, but they might be using for border. They might be using all the sizes, etc. So you'll get if you want to use 1.4 instead of 1.4, you can use this CSS class. Okay. So do not go into this much detail. The problem is we'll mess up many more elements.
Right.
So ideal is good to stick with standard settings because that will give uniform flavor across all the apps. So if you tweak for one app, you have to tweak for all apps
Mm.
because user expect the same consistent user behavior across all the apps.
Mm.
Okay. I think this is about the tool. Okay. Let me see. Where is this one? Okay, okay. So charts as well we have, but you can microcharts etc. I'll just publish one video session. It is straightforward. I think we'll not be able to cover that. I'll just share the video recording. So charts etc. How do we handle? It is very straightforward. There also we have simple methodology. I added already in our portal example. But a key thing to understand here is um, so I have shared all this complete deck. You can once whenever you're free, you can just go back to revise these things. And week one we talked about installation and then HTML, CSS, JavaScript exercises, related exercises. So all the exercises where you can find also I have just placed a GitHub URL. So you'll find all the related exercise URL here. And similarly for intermediate step also administration cloud and on-premise how we have done so the templates etc and relevant access. So these 8 access if we are able to do, then you can deploy successfully, you can create successfully on a Fiori element or Fiori freestyle app and you can deploy to the cloud. So if you follow these 8 steps, so these are the basic essentials which are required. There will be lots of controls etc. You cannot always practice all the 800 controls. If you practice one or two controls and if you're able to know how to use the API, then you can replicate the same steps for all the control irrespective of the control. Understand how to use API and you should be good. So here these step-by-step guidelines also have tried to add, and I have tried to add relevant what are access we have done that I have added. Publicly, some step-by-step guides also have added some reference step-by-step steps as well. So you can, if you're stuck anywhere, you can follow either our GitHub URL which I shared, or you can follow this developer links. So these steps are mandatory, and follow on upon you should mandatory do at least one project, one use case. Now, like DevOps dashboard or where all the skills you have to practice in one use case. If you
Mm.
practice all your skill like how to add fragments, how to use list binding, how to use various other controls etc. So if you practice in one use case and if you're simple thumb rule again, how many projects you push to GitHub, that is your benchmark, true benchmark. So this much of work I have done, so this many access I have done. So the more you push to GitHub, that means the more you are learning.
Mm.
So here also I try to add various accesses. So this DevOps dashboard application annotations access. So annotations one also have completed that complete access last time which we were in between. So I added that code as well. You can refer to this code. This in this updated lots of annotations I have added in this access as well. And likewise there are like step-by-step tutorials as well. So where are this useful in this folder all the useful things I have added. Okay. Final conclusion one. So what we have. So shortly I'll update all the videos I have placed in this playlist. So far what all videos are there, all the so far classes, everything I have published, and it is only accessible to you. Nobody has it. Is only for your email ID only you will have access. All are
Okay.
hosted, all the sessions. Today's session also I'll post it, so all the sessions you have it. So very shortly I'll update them in this URL. So at central place you can have dedicated place also.
So how long are you going to host it?
This you this no matter unless now new content is updated, you'll have this for lifelong 24%. I'm not going to remove this content, so I'll create separate instances for this.
Okay.
So this is going to be stay for as long YouTube
Because
doesn't
I
remove it.
realized I was like talking about the world news during the classes. So I was like worried, oh my God, if it's going to go online, then I'll become infamous.
No, 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 don't worry. You see, all are like when if you see it will be private only. It will be shared to
Right.
one state. So I think initially first two classes because many were asking, so I just hosted the first day. Even I have taken down them. Now you don't see any videos on this as well. I have when you have mentioned it also, I have removed those sessions. You will not have any of those sessions. So these are completely different instances. So this is only accessible to you, and you can refer this one. Second is all the access already GitHub. There I have uploaded all the content. Try to maintain some more videos, three more. I'll try to share in coming following week. So this should be your access. This is also private. Only you'll be able to have access to all the things content. So this master UFI, whatever I have shown you, I've uploaded all the content here. So far we have whatever access we have done, all those are zip files also you have. If you are not able to find the GitHub URL, you can use this zip files and you can import into your local edition as well. Okay. So you'll find all the relevant content here. And thirdly, one more thing is this is an important step. What I generally, what next? So practice, practice, practice. Minimum one application you should be able to what are learnings, what are small or big it may be. In one application you should see all your learnings. So if you have one single GitHub repository, any project you're doing in future also, you can fall back on this single application which will give you okay what is missing and what is wrong, etc. Okay. And that is a live proof. Anybody, if you want to show also, you can show your GitHub URL which is hosted, and that's your live proof of your skills. So whatever you have acquired, you can straight away show those skills. If you want to certify, previously there used to be lots of cost and what for 45,000 for 6 attempts certification cost. Now recently, last week, SAP has introduced a single voucher as well. But you have to practice for 15-20 days if you're familiar. Then you can directly take. Now certification cost is 17,000 with tax. So if you're confident enough with all the skills, etc., then you can directly book from training.sap.com. From home, we can directly give the certification exam. We need not to go to any proctor center.
Mm.
You can practice some more skills, and then once you are confident enough, there is so see this single attempt. If you fail again, you lose your that voucher validity. But if you purchase the voucher, it is valid for 12 months. Fury Dev 21 is the latest. There is 20 as well. 20 is old. Just go to this Dev 21, and this is they're like one more certification. One is meant for developers, another is meant for administration. Don't go for administration because developer includes administration activities. So what are how do we deploy, etc. All those topics. Okay, so 6 attempts cost you 44,000. and single attempt will cost you 17,000. Okay, this is recently introduced. Previously, we did not have a single voucher. Always we had six vouchers. If you have six vouchers, you can take any certification, Fiori or ABAP or any certification. But one exam, only three exams you can write, three attempts. This is
Yeah,
valid 12 months.
I doubt I'll do that. But um, right, certification is not currently in my radar.
Okay,
Um, but like I have a question, if I may.
sure.
So we just saw the launchpad, right? Where
Correct,
there's all the so it is 100% on the cloud, right? And
correct,
then there was that old link. Remember that where you showed how to add like a tile and everything?
correct,
That was like a launchpad admin, right? It's mostly like a GUI login, right? But so something that is coming off of from the SAP backend.
correct.
So, is there a difference between doing things there versus in the? I mean, obviously, keeping the theming and other things aside, just to add a tile, right? Is
Correct.
it?
That is
Yeah.
completely on-premise. This is completely cloud. So for on-premise, still we have to use the same these steps itself.
Mm.
Okay.
But
This
it
is
will eventually show up in the same place, right? I
yeah,
mean,
it will show eventually show in the same place. But see here there are difference as well. So here managing everything you want to manage in cloud, so you can follow those steps. But certain activities you can use on-premise system. So difference you need to understand it. This is hosted on your uh, uh, front-end server. So this is running on your front-end server URL. Okay, that is a subscription model where you're having a portal service where you have subscribed to portal service. From there, you're linking to your backend system. So you're connecting to the as a connector in the destination. If you add your front-end system, then you're connecting to that system and you're deploying it. Ultimately, both will deploy onto the your front-end server itself.
okay, because my question is, um, like we if a client upgrade
Mhm,
to HANA, right, and then we have um, we're planning to see, okay, we need to start using Fiori, right?
mhm,
So we were recently presented with a very
mhm.
vanilla screen of this consulting firm that has been hired to do the job, right? It's been about 4 or 5 months, but they had access to the dev system and ability to create front end and back end for about a year now.
Okay.
Okay, so um, so it's 3 to 4 months or at least 6 months now when we got a demo, right? So we got very excited about demo, and what I saw was a teeny, like that SAP icon that you saw on the left corner, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Upper left corner. In there is like a tiny, pixelated word. Yeah, right. That SAP, they put our company's emblem in that size, and
Mhm.
everything else that I saw was like basic vanilla stuff.
Okay.
Like the even not even like this theme. It was like one shade older than whatever, and they are just showing the vanilla like apps that SAP has pre-delivered. And this is what like for 5 months work of work is unbelievable to me. As I'm taking the class right here,
Mhm.
I realized that in that 5 months we could have deployed the at least a full on. We could have finished theming this and that and everything and deployed at least one tile, that is functional.
Yes, yes.
So I'm not able to talk to my boss and say this is uh, not like I'm trying to gauge the timeline, right? Because
Mhm.
I also happen to be the manager for this, right? So I'm able to guide in my that's why I wanted to come in and do this myself to see, okay, what is the estimate for this, right? If I were to do this from a scratch, I'm able to come up with a better estimate, right,
Right.
than what I've been given, right,
Mhm.
by the people I've hired.
Mhm.
So in a way, but when I have to ask them a question, I'm asking, okay, but can you not give me like the backend admin role? I wanted to go take a look into it, right? There's a hesitation, right? There is no, they're not giving the reason, the access, right?
Okay.
So I was like, okay, and because as I took the class further, I understood, okay, there is cloud thing, and I know how much time it takes to set up the cloud foundry to talk to the backend system. But then I saw this link, right, that you
Mhm.
showed me, and you were like, it took you probably 2 minutes to go and add a tile there.
Right.
So I am now able to understand, right? the estimates that I've been receiving is completely wrong.
See,
But then I have
these are lots of things. See, unless you dig deep into it, if you don't know the complete picture of the landscape, so things will be fooled around in lot many ways. Okay, that happens quite often. But I'm not saying that there are like inherent challenges on-premise. See, in the cloud, it takes minutes definitely, but it's not the same in on-premise definitely because I'll say the fact as well. Because if you see, it's the same task now. There is no, I need not to go back to any separate instances. But in the on-premise, for creating a launchpad instance, I have to go to separate transaction. For creating a semantic, I have to go to separate transaction. Unless people know that complete access, if anywhere the access is blocked, so they'll not able to do it. Now we have the same task. Maybe it will take me an hour in on-premise. Okay, but relatively it will not take days. Okay, I can
because
assure you that.
in roles are created and it is assigned, it can be easily assigned, and at least one person will get an access to this link, right? Which is the launchpad designer and the launchpad admin. Whether it's not as fancy as we would see in the cloud side, but at least we could get some tiles being deployed, right? Is that so? Is that like a fair?
Fair ask, definitely fair
Yeah,
ask.
right.
So it's pretty easy to do as well. So as long as you have the access, unless if you they are confined with access, then that's a genuine ask for a reason for delay. But if they have the complete access and if they are not able to do, then it's definitely a question to think over.
Because the guy
Okay.
who's actually setting up in the back end, I went and looked into the SU01D and I was able to see that, oh, okay, the roles are being created and there is some admin, UI5 roles being assigned. So if that is there, then, I could have given that access to another team member who is willing to do this. But
Okay.
that is not, so I'm getting this image like, oh my God, I'm like, excuse me, am I paying you for 5 months just to sit on one screen? Is that what? So it just doesn't, sit well because so yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest takeaway, for me is this, from the class to understand how to estimate these things, how much effort it takes.
Mm,
Even though we're talking about foundation, no, we're not talking about expert level stuff here.
correct.
Um, and so yeah, so I am preparing some write up so I can so
Sure, sure. So as long as it's helpful to you, I'm happy. So all I expect is, so someone should take away. So it should not be a waste of time or energy. So always some takeaway should be there. So then it should be useful. Uh,
sorry, I talked a lot on the recording mode. I should have stopped it.
that's okay. Okay, it's going to stay with you only. That's okay. Okay. So. So always, if you need any, you can always reach out on my mail. I'll be available on my mail. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I may have like at least two or three questions that I may have to ask you when our whole project, is going to like the show starts, right? So
definitely.
I may have, so I'm reserving at least, some three questions at least to ask you at some point
Sure.
in time.
Definitely, anytime you can ask me. So most of the things are, even things can change drastically. So the moment we are talking, speaking,
Oh
so
yeah,
SAP
yeah.
might have completely different, road map on their mind, and it can change within the next 6 months as well. So things are not, but so far, what are we, see, in cloud, it's very smooth. So yeah, it's highly recommended that it's very much evolving, fast evolving. If you ask me, it's very evolving. But if you ask me the global cloud, than SAP, the AWS or any other clouds are there, Salesforce, they are like rapidly very fast. Okay, SAP is trying to increase their speed from their friends, so they are giving lots of changes, and things are going to be very smooth down the lane, and hopefully all these things are Fiori are like bundled now. So installation etc are very old. 3 years back they used to talk about installing Fiori. Now even Fiori, everything, if you have S4 HANA with 1809 release, then you have everything. Literally you have everything. All you need is access. If you have access, like I said, standard Fiori apps, all you can leverage from right from within a 2 day, 1 day for setting up the data, 1 day for you know enabling the apps. So if you are running latest stack and version, then in on-premise or cloud, in cloud it's just a subscription. You purchase a subscription, right from the next day you have all the Fiori apps ready. Okay.
Wow.
So there you need not do even single installation also. All we are talking right now is for custom scenarios where you build a custom solution. Then how do we deploy? How do we do on the cloud? We just saw in just a couple of 15 minutes back. But for the standard Fiori apps, we need not do anything. Not even a single step. Everything is as comes as a subscription. So they have Fiori RDS, so rapid deployment service, where straight away we can consume it. So service marketplace is a place where everything will be hosted. Okay. So
So
any more
in
question?
the end-to-end implementation, right? Let's say we are completely new to Fiori,
Hmm.
at least to get what a few tiles, let's say three handful of three tiles,
Hmm.
let's say for FI, right, finance department to run up and running.
Hmm.
How long do you estimate it is going to take? And how many, like, what is the head count we're looking at, to implement such a, any
See,
idea?
it's not about app count as such. So there could be, see, if you want just a standard Fury apps to be done, so 2 weeks is the max time you need. Okay, so 2 weeks time for if you have 3 or 4 apps, finance apps, any apps you have. So if on premise or anything, so setting up the things and loading the data, relevant data, all you need is max to max 2 weeks. 2 weeks time you should have an up and running complete finance stack. Any module take, it doesn't matter finance or HR anything, any landscape. 2 weeks is idle time by which at least you can see one running live demo for application of anything for Fury apps.
Yeah,
Worst
got
case, you can give a buffer of 1 more week. Maybe
it.
they got access issues or something. So that's a genuine ask. You can go for it. So beyond that, no. In the cloud, 1 week max. So I said like if you want an demo, as for HANA cloud trial, why don't you just register? Within next 10 minutes, you'll get access to all the latest HANA we have seen or annotations example, right?
Right, because we're not on S4 HANA,
Mhm.
so that's why I thought, by sticking to the actual one that we are on will help me to estimate, these,
Yeah,
because I
two
feel
weeks.
like 3 months, yeah, 3 to 4 months, it's been, I think they're ripping me off. um, yeah,
Okay.
crazy
So
man.
you have seen the steps. All you need is, if anybody is asking you, you can take this. This is where the complete anybody says you're running and how many tasks. So you can just quantify using this deck itself. So if cloud, be it cloud or on-premise, so for deployment, there are like only 3 steps on-premise. Deployment configuration, what activity they do is these are the activity: deck one, deck two, deck three. Okay, how much does it take to identifying the relevant use case? Maybe it will take you identifying which app to install. For that, you might have to do, but for installing and making it up and running, you should not take any time.
Yeah,
As long as you know which app to use and
right.
preparing the test data, etc., might need take time because of new use case, etc. But to make it up and running, it should not take any time. It should be pretty much week time is a more time if you ask me.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. For I think I covered for today's task at least. Yeah. Okay. All the best. Hope.
Uh,
Okay. I
Thank
will
you
be
so
useful to
much.
you.
Yeah, if at some point in time I need to take, some advanced class, then I might reach out to you as well.
Sure. 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 Yeah. Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.